Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing fine. Welcome to the session. Today we are going to start with Chapter 2, How the Dog Found Himself a Master. So it's a very interesting story where we'll get to know how dogs who lived in the forest, more like any other animals, they were their own masters. What sort of incidents happened, whom they tried to reach out to get over their problems, and finally, how did they realize that other animals whom they decided to be there, allowed them to be their master, like a wolf, a bear, a lion, didn't turn out to be their best masters. And one day, he realized that it's better to say goodbye to all the other animals and go off after a man. And since then, the dog has been staying with man as his most loyal animal who knows no other master. So it's a very emotional story. Let's get started with this chapter. Dogs were once their own masters and lived the way wolves do, in freedom, until a dog was born who was ill-pleased. Ill-pleased means not happy with his way of life. He was sick and tired of wandering about by himself, looking for food and being frightened, scared, or afraid of those who were stronger than he. Now here what he's trying to say is dogs and wolves, like any other animals, they are more like closely related family. And there were times when they used to wander free in the forest, in the woods, and live freely like any other animal, without any restrictions, without any constraints. Freedom, which means liberty. Whatever they wish, they could do. But once such a dog was born who was not so happy with such kind of a lifestyle. He was sick of finding food for himself, was not ready to move freely and wanted somebody to take care of him. Because he often used to get scared of all the stronger beings in the forest. He thought it over and decided that the best thing for him to do was to become the servant of one who was stronger than anyone on earth. And he set out to find such a master. Master basically here means an owner or ruler who's going to give him instructions. So servant doesn't literally mean here a maid. It basically means a helper who works for others. So after thinking for long, one such dog, he decided that I'm going to work as a helper to my master, who is of course strongest and the most powerful man or being on earth. He didn't decide it was going to be a human being. He just decided that it's going to be a being who's strongest on this earth. And he started to look for one. He walked and walked, and he met a kinsman. Now, who's a kinsman is more like a cousin, or you can say a relative. A kinsman of his, a big wolf, who was as strong as he was fierce. So, fierce basically means violent, can be frightening. Where are you going, dog? The wolf asked. I am looking for someone to take up service with. Would you like to be my master, wolf? I don't see why not, the wolf said. And this agreed upon, the two of them went on together. So here, what does it mean that I want to take up service with. Take up service means become the servant. So, after walking for quite some time, he happened to meet one of his relatives, his cousins from his own family, and the person or that being was none other than the relative was a wolf who was not only strong but also looking quite scary, frightening, and who had that impression to scare others off. So the dog asked that, first the wolf asked the dog where the dog was going. So the dog answered that I'm looking for a master, and would you like to be my master? The wolf didn't find any problem in it and he agreed happily, and then the two of them, they set out their journey together. They walked and they walked, and all of a sudden the wolf lifted his nose, sniffed, darted quickly off the path and into the bushes and crept deeper into the forest. The dog was much surprised. "What's come over you, master?" he asked. "What has frightened you so? Can't you see? There's a bear out there, and he might eat up both of us, you and me." So crept means he crawled quietly into the forest. Sniffed means you draw air like animals do, drop air making some sound which is audible, right? And darted basically means move quickly. So what happens here is, and there's another thing, came over you, which means what affected you. So after walking for some time and covering some distance, suddenly the wolf started to sniff, and as he sniffed, he quickly started to make his way deeper into the forest to hide himself behind the bushes so that he doesn't get detected. So all he was trying to do is hide, and at this time the dog was unable to understand as to what was the wolf trying to do. And he asked him that, "Why are you doing like this? What's affecting you?" So he was so scared and so frightened that the wolf told him that there was a bear and we need to save ourselves, otherwise he's going to gulp us both in. In no time he's going to eat both of us, you and me. So seeing that the bear was stronger than the wolf, the dog decided to take up service with him. And he left the wolf and asked the bear to be his master. The bear agreed to this readily and said, "Let us go and find a herd of cows," which means group of cows. "I'll kill a cow and then we can both eat to our fill." Our fill means we can fill our stomach. So what happens here, on realizing that wolf isn't the king here and he isn't the strongest, he realized that bear is stronger or was stronger than the wolf, and this helped the dog change his mind. He left the wolf and turned towards the bear and asked him that, "Would you be my master?" And the bear agreed to this with ease, and he suggested, "Okay, let's do one thing. We're going to look for a herd, a group of cows, and I'm going to kill one of them, and then we both can fill our stomach with the cows." They walked on and soon saw a herd of cows, which means group of cows. But just as they were about to come up to it, they were stopped by a terrible noise. Terrible means horrible. The cows were mooing. Mooing is generally the sound of cows or sound made by the cows. Mooing loudly and running in a panic in all directions. So after they managed to cover some distance to look for the group of cows, they did find a group of cows, but as they tried to approach them in order to kill one of the cows, they were stopped by that terrible, horrible noise that was made by the cows. They were all rushing here and there in order to save their life. And they were all in fear of someone or something. So the bear looked out from behind a tree. He tried to hide himself behind the tree, and then he too ran hastily, which means he ran hurriedly deeper into the forest. Now, why did I have to come here? Said he to the dog. It is the lion who rules the forest in these parts. The lion? Who's he? Don't you know? He's the strongest beast on earth. Well then, I'll say goodbye to you, bear. I want a master who is stronger than anyone on earth. So, as the bear was trying to struggle to look out, from behind a tree as to what's happening, and he was looking at those cows running in panic and fear, it's when he realized that this area, this part of the forest was ruled by the lion. And he, being the strongest and most powerful animal on this earth, there's no chance that I can go and confront him. So the minute the dog heard about this, he said, okay, I say goodbye to you. And he left the bear immediately and decided to go behind and for the lion to be his servant. And off the dog went to ask the lion to be his master. The lion agreed to it, and the dog stayed with him and served him for a long, long time. It was a good life, and he had nothing to complain of, for there was no stronger beast in the forest than the lion, and no dared touch the dog or offend him in any way. Offend means upset or annoy, and dared basically means had the courage or the strength to do something. So now the dog, who turned to the lion after being a slave to a bear, and of course after being a slave to a wolf, so the lion accepted the dog and he stayed with him and he served him for quite a long period of time. The dog felt comfortable, he enjoyed his life. There was nothing he could fear of or maybe complain. He was to believe the dog, he was the strongest master. And there was nobody as brave as the lion who could come and take any kind of confrontation with the lion. But one day, the two of them were walking side by side along a path that ran amid bare cliff. In between that bare cliff is basically a high rock. When all of a sudden the lion stopped. He gave a great roar. Roar is the sound of, or I'll say a deep cry of wild animal, and struck the ground angrily. And at that time he hit the ground angrily with his paws with such a force that a hole formed there. Then he began to back away very quietly. "What is it, master? Is anything wrong?" asked the dog, surprised. "I smell a man coming this way," the lion said. "We'd better run for it or we'll be in trouble." "Oh, well, then I'll say goodbye to you, lion. I want a master who's stronger than any man on earth." So now as the things changed, when both of them, they were having a gala good time, and all of a sudden when they were walking amid, basically in between, right, or I'll say in the middle of bare means uncovered. That doesn't have any kind of vegetation there. It was bare. Cliff means a very high rock, right? Generally at the edge of the sea you find them. So both of them, when they were strolling, they were walking in between that high rock, the lion immediately stopped. Something came his way and he stopped. He roared aloud and started to hit his paws, his feet, with enormous, intense pressure on the ground, that the pressure was so much that it almost created a hole there. And he started to backfoot. He started to walk back quietly, and started to push the dog also to go back. So the dog asked if there's something wrong. And the lion could sense that there's a man coming their way and they must run to save their life. The minute the dog heard this, he said bye to the lion, the king of the forest, because he wanted the strongest being on earth, his master. So, and off the dog went to join the man. And he stayed with him and served him faithfully. Faithfully means truly. When you're very true, when you're very loyal, when you're very devoted. This happened long ago, but to this day the dog is man's most loyal servant and knows no other master. So loyal, it means faithful. So now the dog, when he went to the man and asked him to be his master, the man agreed. And he stayed with the human being, and became his true friend. And it's said that the story and the saga still continues. This incident took place way back in the past, but till date, the dog is man's most faithful animal or servant. Those who have dogs with themselves, they'll be able to relate to it. So that's all for the session. In case you liked it, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.